Ooh, Iron Madin. Iron Madin.
Get yes to
I Iron Madin? Is that what that
Iron.
is? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I know who it is.
Mate, if I knew I was going to be
Iran?
stuck in the US for another day,
You would have totally gone to the Maiden show.
I would have stayed in New York and gone to the Barclays Center with JJ.
Yeah. That seemed pretty cool.
What's happening here? YouTube stream now, sending data. One person watching us on Periscope. Hello, person watching us on Periscope.
Hola.
Hola.
So did you already tweet this out?
No. Oh, I think Periscope does automatically.
Does it? Okay.
Does
Hey, everyone.
Hello, those of you that are watching there. Let me see.
Cool.
Let me just go to the YouTube. Oh, that's the wrong flipping account. This channel doesn't have any content. Michael Drylander. I'm like signed into 3 different email accounts on Google. It's a nightmare to manage everything. I hate it. I hate Google.
Oh, yeah, it's so good.
Oh no, except it says it's the Laravel News Podcast Live. I should probably edit. Can I change that here? I don't even know. It's obviously not the Laravel News Podcast. Dickhead. No, freaking North meets South Web. Yep, South with a capital O. Save. Public. Custom thumbnail, 2 megabytes or less. I don't care about any of that. Alright, so let me go in here.
Yeah, look at that. There we are.
If I just want to listen, what's this? Lost connection.
Yep. Who knows?
Is that Periscope?
All right. I'm not messing with any of that crap anymore. Yep. It's Periscope. Okay. Should we get this party started? What episode are we on?
Hang on. Let me just make sure our audio levels are okay.
Okay.
I'll just give it a bit of a bump there and
check 1 2 check.
North meets South, episode number 50 something. North meets South meets no plans to merge. 60. We're up to episode 60.
60. Nice. That's a good number.
Wow.
Nice big number.
Control. Who sponsored us? Andreas Hubenthal last month. Thanks, Andreas.
Yep, we gotta pull that list up again today. Okay, are we ready? Episode 60 then? I'm gonna start recording. Are you recording your audio on QuickTime yet?
I will be in just a moment.
You forgot, didn't you?
Must be Joe. No, I've got it open. I just haven't clicked yet. Ready to go on your mark.
Okay, in 3, 2, 1, click. There we go.
I always have to go on like 2 and a bit because of the latency.
Yep, I understand. All right, you go ahead and start us out.
Hey, I'm Michael Dorinda.
And I'm Jake Bennett.
And this is the live recording of episode 60 of the North Meets South Web Podcast.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in again to the North Meets South Web Podcast. Last time we had Daniel Coburn and Caleb Porzio on the show live from the green room of Laracon, New York City, Laracon 2019. It's pretty awesome. It was a fun time.
It was a lot of fun. I'm so glad that we actually made that happen because I think last time I was in New York, we had microphones and stuff and it just didn't happen, even though we were right there and had the opportunity to do it. So I'm glad that we got to sit down with those fine gentlemen. D. Cole.
I think last time I forgot my microphone last time, I think. But
it's entirely possible, yeah.
It's very possible, quite possible.
C-Pause and D. Cole?
Mm-hmm. That's what they're going by now?
Yeah.
So apparently D. Cole is not like a known thing, apparently. I don't know. Like he calls him that on the show all the time, but apparently was like that's just not something he's used to being called. Like it's just something Caleb does, and so
It
now
was
people
yeah, it
calling
was
him D Cole is a little bit odd for him.
yeah, nickname between friends. So people come up to him. People like you, for example, come up to this poor stranger in the crowd and they're like, "Hey, D Cole, what's up?" And he's like, "Not my name. Don't know who you are. Get away from me, you creeper."
Oh my gosh.
He's not. He's not like that. He's too nice to do that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'm that creeper who he doesn't know, and yeah, that's me. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
I
me.
was actually telling Aaron about, remember we went to the Yotel bar on the Thursday night and there was just that group of young people that were
Mm-hmm.
in these
Oh, I
cheap
remember.
suits that they had just bought. Like, you know that they
True.
just went and bought those and they're at this thing and
Yep.
we're all sitting around wondering what they are. And I say, "Hey, Jake, you go over there and find out what they're doing for us, because that's just the kind of thing that extroverted, outgoing Jake would do." So off he went and found out it was like some young networking event. It was
Yeah.
bizarre to watch because there was one person sitting there talking and then like three or four people sitting around them in a circle taking notes,
Yeah. It was odd.
like young Wall Street people or something. I don't
Yeah. It
know.
was very
It was
odd.
very
Mm-hmm.
bizarre.
Yeah. It was. It was weird, but it was. I don't know, man. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about this, and I said to them that I think I've talked about this before on our show too. Like, it's easier for me to talk to strangers sometimes than people that I know really well.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like the longer people know me, the more they know about me. It's like the more they realize like my faults, my things that I'm not good at, or bad habits or whatever. I don't know. But with strangers, it's like a fresh, yeah, it's like a fresh start. Like nobody has any idea, and I can put on a good face, and
Mm-hmm.
it's easy. It's easy peasy.
It's
Yep.
like starting a relationship over and over again. Like every new person is a new relationship. You could be a completely different person. Um, once you
Yeah,
know
that's the thing.
people,
Like I'm not a completely different person. Like
no,
I
but
feel
you
like I'm
can
just
be.
like
You
you
can
could
be,
be. Yeah.
and you can make it a lot of fun. Like you could pretend to be someone that you're not, and see what resonates with different people, and see what works and what doesn't,
Hmm.
and things like that. Whereas people that know you, well, they know you, and they can tell like when you're changing and putting something on and things like that. So it's an interesting social experiment, I suppose. Obviously, there's people in suits.
Yeah.
We're trying to make a good impression with the people that they were with, but it was funny because I was sitting there and I was looking at these people and they're all dressed up in these suits and we're all just sitting in there in like conference t-shirts and shorts and like
Yeah.
looking the way that we do, like programmers. And I look at those people and I am not envious of them at all. I think I've got a pretty great life with what I'm fortunate
Man,
enough
I think
to do.
yeah. It's, happens so often. I do that. We're like, oh, it's like I don't know. It sounds almost pompous sometimes though. But you look at people who are in jobs that just they're obviously not happy with their job, right? And it's honestly not a lot of times because of any decisions that they made or didn't make or whatever. It's just like life circumstances have dictated this to them, right?
Yeah.
And it just so happens that like the hobby that I had when I was in seventh grade ends up being an in demand job,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now that I'm an adult, and as luck would have it, like I have a good job, right? But man, so many times I think like I am so fortunate to have the job I have, to actually enjoy the work I do, get paid decently to do it,
Yeah.
and like work at a good place. Like we're so lucky.
And
So yeah,
have the luxury.
yep. Yeah, to go to a conference where like it's paid for me to go to New York City. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
how does that? Yeah, pretty fortunate. So anyway, hey, I was thinking about a couple things to talk about today. I wanted to talk a little bit about Livewire and Inertia,
Yeah.
kind of break those down a little bit, talk about what they are, what they aren't, where their use cases are, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk a little bit maybe about microservices, which is, I know, old hat, not really hot topic anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say per se we're doing microservices, but maybe we're using similar patterns in some things. Possibly alerts for your scheduled services or scheduled tasks in your scheduler config,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like heartbeats. Interested to hear how you guys handle those.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mosh, laptop in the cloud.
Mosh.
That episode was so it's
see
Happy
that.
Hacker episode or whatever.
Yeah, I saw it. I haven't had a
That looked
chance to
interesting.
listen. I was very, very surprised to see it. Chris Hunt, his name is? He used to do a
I actually don't know.
yeah, I think he used to do a podcast with Ben Orenstein, the Codecation. And I really enjoyed that podcast. And when Matt Stauffer, shout out Matt, posted or tweeted that there was a new episode, I went and looked, and I'd removed it from my Overcast because it had been 5 years between episodes. So I'm excited to get back into it. Not that I take a buddy with me to the gym now at lunch, so I don't really listen to
Yeah.
podcasts as much
Yeah.
as I can. So every time I open Overcast, there's like 15, 20
Yeah.
podcasts in there that, on my commute to and from work is not enough time to get through them all. And
Sometimes
he had a meeting on Thursday, I think, and I said, I'm going to enjoy catching up on podcasts without you.
Yeah. Like I go through these periods where like a lot of the podcasts in my list are programming related, but
Mhm.
there'll be times where I don't listen to like programming related podcasts for a month or so.
Mhm.
Like I just have a couple other things that I'm interested in listening to. And yeah, it's like a good break for my brain because otherwise it's literally every single thing of content like between Twitter and podcasts and work, like the vast majority of my time is programming brain. And so sometimes I just need like a little bit of variety,
Yeah.
So anyway, hey, so I thought to keep it interesting for people who might be listening who actually care about programming and Laravel, talk about alerts for your scheduled tasks, how you guys handle this. Like, so how do you make sure that something that's scheduled in your kernel that's set to run every day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but not on weekends, a job like that, like how do you make sure that that is running and is in a healthy status? Where do you
Right.
see that? How do you keep track of it? Or do you just wait for a user to say like, hey, this is broken, not working? So
Right now, yeah.
what do you do? What
Right
do you
now, we don't. We should.
do? You don't schedule, you don't like monitor any of that?
We don't monitor them. No, we just assume everything is beautiful in the world. Everything's rainbows and puppies, and nothing ever breaks. So occasionally things do, and then we notice it pretty quickly because the tasks that we run are fairly high volume in the contact center. If certain tasks aren't running, like they will notice because it impacts their job.
Sure.
So I did at one point look, like there's Chronotor and things like that you can use.
Chronotor.
Yeah, I think it's a Chronotor.
Like monitor, but Chronotor.
Yeah, monitor, but Chronotor.io. And they do a whole bunch of stuff where you could do pingbacks. I know that Laravel Envoy does pings, but I think that's more health checks in terms of deployments as opposed to monitoring. I think maybe even Odia does that. Can you send a ping? Because we're using Odia, so it might be worth using that. I thought about making my own, just because we're developers and there's a thing that we think we need, and then we go and just build it.
Yep.
No, it doesn't look like Odia does it. So, and look, I wouldn't expect them to either because it's not really part of that. But like broken links and mixed content checks, and it does website uptime, but that's more so that the website is available, which isn't really for monitoring crons, but just something that you could send a ping to, give it a URL, and it just says, how often should I see a report from this thing, and how many missed reports should raise an alert, and then send a Slack notification. I don't think it would be a terribly difficult thing to implement. I think if you're going to do it, though, you would have to implement it reliably, especially if you're going to have other people. Like if we're just building it as an internal tool, then, it's not critical. But if you're going to build some SaaS for it, you need to make sure that thing's reliable, because you don't want people sending pings to your service to monitor that your scheduled tasks are running, and then your
and then have your service be down.
Not working.
Yeah. I'm curious actually how things like that like are, what's the SLA time on like Odir, right? Like how, it's checking websites all the time. Like what sort of redundancy or high availability do they have on that bad boy so they can make sure that it's got to be like across regions and all that stuff so that they can make sure that it's up all the time.
Yeah, they check in 2 places or 3 places or whatever. I've never had an issue. Like Odia picks things up. Every time we deploy our public members area, we will do a PHP artisan down and put it into maintenance mode. And I'll get that notification from Odia within like 30 seconds.
Hmm.
So it's always quick to report those things for me. But in terms of like what
So
their SLA is and what what they
yeah,
promise they'll get back to you on that kind of stuff, I'm not sure. There might be something in their FAQs.
yeah. The reason I ask is because we have had the same challenge. We have a garbage ton of scheduled tasks. We have a bunch of them, right? I feel like any sufficiently complex application will likely have them. Like you just run into them on a regular basis. Anything that you need to be checking on to say like, hey, has this thing happened yet? Anything that you can't do with like a queued job, like saying like, hey, queue this for later. Um, you have to just check. Like so, for example, has this thing expired yet?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or is this thing scheduled to be sent? Or are any of these things scheduled to be sent? Go ahead and send them out, right?
Yep.
Those sorts of deals. You just have them. You just accumulate these things, and so yeah, in our business we have a bunch of pretty critical items that have to run, have to run. We have clients that are expecting them. So if we have like a export that does not run and does not get to their data center correctly, we're like that looks really bad for us, right? So we should probably know about that before they do, and it's likely not going to throw a Sentry alert, or it doesn't always. Like it's kind of odd because some of these jobs, it feels like console jobs almost fail silently more often, and so like if it's not happening, it's yeah, there was just you have to have some way to check it, right? And so we have rolled our own, pretty much. We've rolled our own dashboard where we say, hey, here are all the things that we have that are supposed to be checking in. And there's like, I hear you when you say like it's not going to be that difficult to implement. It isn't, but there's just a lot of things that you don't think about until you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So like for example, like the example I gave where I say like, hey, we only run it from 8 until 5, and it doesn't run any time after that. And I only actually want to be alerted about it during business hours because like, or, for certain critical jobs, I want to be alerted 24 hours a day. But if it's something non-critical, I only want to be alerted during these times, right? And I want it to check every 10 minutes and give me a roll-up of like all the different notifications that it has.
Yeah.
It also checks my failed jobs tables and says like, hey, do you have any failed jobs for all of these different databases? And if it does, it will deliver them to me. So all of that stuff. So we have built it. And one of the things that we've found is like those blackout times where we can say like, okay, we know that this is going to start at 8, it's going to end at 5. So like only like check during these periods. And I'm interested to see if this is a problem that other people are having. There are other solutions out there, but I feel like it's a simple win, right? It's something that I could either open source or create and like basically just kind of take what we've already worked on and done and release it to the world out there and get it even better, let people improve it, whatever, or eventually even make a tiny SaaS out of it. Now, here's the deal with tiny SaaSes, right? Tiny SaaSes don't make any money. Yeah. They're certainly not like income replacement money. Like you can't, if you're charging anything under like, I don't know, $20 a month kind of thing, like you're never touching anything that's going to even like come close to helping your, I don't know, unless you have massive scale, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
if you're charging like $5 a month, it seems like it's a nice little hobby sort of thing, but you're never going to make any money off it, any real money, know? I don't know. Yeah. So it'd probably just be one of those kind of fun side things that you maybe charge just to kind of keep the service up and running, because like you said, you'd have to have like high availability. And a lot of people just don't want to run it themselves, right? They don't want to go through the pain of setting it up. They just want to have something that they can basically write into their kernels that says then ping, and it will just talk out to your service, and bada bing, bada boom, they're done. They have monitoring set up and in place.
And it's fairly straightforward. Like that's what you'd have to do. Like, here is your URL. I don't know if you would have a distinct URL for each task. I guess
so that's the annoying
only
part
way
too.
You would be able to. Like,
that's the annoying part too. Is like
query parameters in there or anything like that.
Yeah, like when you have to in advance schedule or find, like when you in advance have to create a URL for it, then you have to basically say, this is the same problem of like, okay, when should I start checking that for alerts? Well, actually you should only start checking it for alerts after it's had its first check-in, right?
Yeah.
Because what you're likely doing is you're setting it up, and then you're going to go check in for the first time once you deploy that code, right? But you have to write the code first. So those sorts of little things as well. But ideally what you would do is I wouldn't even want to have, like, I would just want it to create it like on the fly. If I say then ping, I want to grab some sort of data off of that command and create a unique URL for them, and then basically just let them know, maybe if they need it, here's what it is, but kind of do that transparently. I think would be like a best world scenario. And kind of handle all of that, like figure out how often it's running, like figure out all that. Because basically the scheduler compiles down to a cron timestamp signature, like that star, 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 two, star, star, whatever, right? So like, I figure like you got to be able to find that or get that somehow out of the kernel. The only time where you couldn't do that is if you're executing it with like a closure. So a lot of times you can say, like in kernel, you can say when, and then you pass a function, and then that function returns a closure. Or I'm sorry, it says when, and then it accepts a closure, an anonymous function, right? And then you can basically do whatever logic you want in there. So there's no way the kernel could know about that. It's just going to run every 5 minutes or something, and then you say when this, whatever.
Yeah,
right?
but it wouldn't be a matter of configuring the schedule in that application, the SaaS that's doing the monitoring. It would be a matter of configuring what a missed one is, and how many you can miss, or what period of time can you miss it. So I don't think there's a zero configuration option for it. Like
there probably is for some
of it. Yeah, maybe. I don't necessarily think so. Like even with
so like, okay, for example,
if I said,
so like for example, if I said like, hey, I want to send out a digest of any important note lines that have been added to this particular client in our CRM, right? On Mondays, I want to set up a roll-up digest of any clients that have had important note lines added to all of our management team every Monday at 8:00. Let me know if it doesn't go.
Yeah, but how does the monitoring application know that it hasn't gone?
Well, it hasn't checked in. It looks at the timestamps for the last time it checked in, and it says if it hasn't checked in within, whatever threshold you originally set when you set up your account, it would basically say if it hasn't checked in within 5 minutes of the time when it's supposed to check in, then it didn't work. It failed.
Yeah, but you have to configure that in the monitoring application. The monitoring application isn't just going to know when it should be checking in. Like it doesn't know.
Unless.
Well, it doesn't know. The monitoring application doesn't know what your schedule looks like. It doesn't know that scheduled task is going to run once a week, or if it's expected to run every day. Like you have to tell it. For this command,
so dream with
when
me.
It should run.
Dream with me though. So like if I had the then ping command right now in Laravel, all it does is it just says go out and touch this address. That's all it does. It just sends a 200 request to like this location, and that's all. Right? If you could create your own custom then ping, so then ping my service name, or if you could override the Laravel then ping, and if you could somehow, in addition to just hitting the 200, if you could send along a payload that included the cron, the name of the cron schedule that the kernel figured out for this one particular job. If it could grab off the name of the command that's actually being sent, all of that stuff. Like if when that scheduled thing ran, right, the then ping actually kind of packaged up all that stuff and then sent it off over the wire along with just the 200, then it could kind of auto handle itself, right? Like it would kind of assign a unique signature to that one piece and say like, oh, I know what that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know.
Does that make sense? I know I'm dreaming here. I don't have a solution for it. I'm just saying, like, ideally, I know myself having done it. It's really annoying to have to go set them up yourself manually. It's really frustrating. So like that's one of the major felt pain points. Like I just want to be able to like schedule something and then say, hey, go monitor that and let me know if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go to another tool, right? That would be ideal. I don't know how it would work. I'm just saying it would be great if it could make it work.
No. I don't.
But you know what I mean? Like if you
could, you have to configure it somewhere. At some point, you have to configure it.
But don't you think it would be possible if I said like, so maybe I generate my own unique key. Maybe I just say like, or maybe it's just included like in a I don't know, maybe it goes into storage, maybe it goes somewhere into some config of some sort, I don't know, but like you generate your own unique key, I don't care, and just
Yeah.
send it along with it, and then the application that you're talking to just says, oh, okay, I don't know, however you want to do that. Like you've used Fluent syntax to say then ping whatever, I don't know how you would do
Yeah.
that, but
I
You'd have
think
you would have to be able to send along the name of the command and the schedule of the command. That's the trick.
Mhm.
Like you'd have to be able to send along the cron stamp, timestamp thing, as well as the name of the command, so you could kind of identify it, and then you could do like an auto setup sort of deal. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility. See, because then ping sends a get request.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that you could pass in some like query parameters, or you could submit a merge request to the framework, I suppose, to
Yeah.
get it to put in some stuff out of the schedule to
Mm-hmm.
say
Or
like
just
this.
have people install a package that does that, right?
Yeah, sure. There's like you can have the command punched in there, so you could like put that as a query parameter.
Mm-hmm.
Can you get the schedule?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I haven't even looked at the then ping method yet. So like, because it wouldn't even have to like, you don't have to even look at the then ping as the thing. Like you could just have something that kind of attaches onto the kernel scheduler class, it just extends it or something, and then
Yeah, there's the expression, so that you could actually pass the expression as part, like the cron expression,
yes,
as well as the, what was the other thing that I just said?
uh,
Whatever the
a
other thing
query
was.
param. You're talking about query param.
Yeah,
The
so you
the
send
name of
the
the
name, the
command.
command, yeah, the command name and the cron expression, and the time zone. I guess you could all send that across.
Oh, and time
In
zone. That's interesting.
And then you've got like the mutex name if you wanted that as well. These are all things that you can get out, and then pass in as part of that query parameter. So yeah, it could be done. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like you would then have to parse it and figure out like, is this a command that should run every 5 minutes? And then you could do some auto configuration based on that on the first check-in. And that way you'd have like
And
a
then you could allow
single
people to
webhook.
customize it, right?
Yeah, and then you'd have like a single endpoint for all of the pings that go out. And then you could like configure based on like, this is the command that ran and this is the schedule that it did. And you could figure out like, is this something that runs every 5 minutes? And then you could configure a default like, okay, if we missed 3 consecutive 5-minute periods, then raise an alert. And then people could then say, go back in there. And then you put in, geez, we're giving away a free idea here. If someone builds this, we're going to miss out.
I'm building it.
You're building
We're building it.
We're all building it. Everyone's building it. We're going to have 5 or 10 or 15 of these.
Well, here's the deal.
Products.
Like, I don't feel like, yeah, well, it's like, there's a million different ideas and a million different whatever. Like the difference is not like I won't be the first person, or we won't be the first people to have had any of this idea. Like at the end of the day, like David Hemphill wasn't the first like CMS sort of slash like whatever. It's just at the end of the day, it's all about distribution for me. And that's why like David or Adam, like any of those guys, like the biggest challenge is always distribution. Justin Jackson talks about this, right? Like if you can't get 1,000 people to sign up for an email list for like your idea, don't bother building it. Like it's not worth it, right? And so like for some of this, like for me and for you, like we at least have this platform to talk about it. So if we end up building it or putting it out there, like we have some people to tell about it and they can go use it. So,
I mean, worst case scenario, I can use it for work. But as we've seen with, you mentioned David, as we've seen with David and with Chris, there is room in our little bubble of PHP to build a very Laravel specific tool that does all of this stuff. That if we understand the expressions, if we can send that expression with the ping to this service, and we know that it's an expression that came from a Laravel app, we know that it's like every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Sunday, every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes. So we could, get back to what that expression is based on what we're receiving, because we know that it's coming from a Laravel application. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's burn the midnight oil. It's getting late there for you, like almost 11 o'clock. After we finish
Hmm.
recording this episode, let's just jump on, let's jump on Tuple and just like start coding out this app. Let's wireframe something up.
Here's the crazy thing is I've already got some of this built.
Done. I want
That's
you
the
to do
deal.
the
Like I've
front
already.
end because you know your way around Tailwind. Like I, I couldn't even build a login. I tried to do a login page the other day, and you know when you copy and paste the Bootstrap template and it's got that meta attribute in the header that sets like the initial scale. I always forget that. So my
Oh yeah,
thing
yeah.
that should be responsive when you open it on a mobile is just the desktop view.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Yeah.
been burned by that enough times, not so that I actually remember to put that in there from the start, but so that I know what it is when I see the problem. Because previewing it in responsive design mode in Chrome fixes that, like it doesn't account for that. But then I open it on my actual phone and I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, dude. It's Tailwind is like it took a while to get used to for sure, but man alive, oh my gosh, it has made my life incredibly easier for sure. I really enjoyed Adam's talk too. I need to watch it back again. Just talking about basically how he uses it, right, and where he extracts components and how he uses all those things. So yeah, okay. So kind of this dovetails with the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is kind of like Tailwind, or not Tailwind, but Livewire and Inertia. And yes, we're like we're only like a half hour in. So
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
depending, I mean, like we can talk for a little bit more. Anyway, so suffice it to say, for me, the solution we have works. The one thing that I don't like is that I have to set up a new job manually each time I want something to go out. But the alert, the notifications that I get right now, I'm really satisfied with. Like these roll up, wrap up notifications I get every like 10 minutes are great. So yeah. And you know for a fact what's going to happen is like we're going to have talked about this, and then tomorrow someone's going to, or whenever we release this, somebody's going to come, oh yeah, that's already built. Here it is. This is the thing.
Of course
That's already over here. Yeah, that'll happen. It always does, right? So
and that's
but
fine,
for me it's
that'll
like
save us time and effort. But yeah,
exactly. But
I would just like to
I
build
want like
something to
a
be able to
simple,
build something and
small.
ship it, and then be able to, like, if nothing else, use it myself. Like it's going to go on a $5 a month server.
Correct.
If it's just me and you using it, then it doesn't matter. Like I'll pay $5 a month for a tool that I can use. And if we get other people using it later, then okay, we get other people using it later.
Yep. All the reasons that David Hemphill mentioned in his one blog post recently, right? Like, why do you build stuff that already has existing solutions?
Why build X when Y exists?
Yes, exactly. All those things.
It was a really good post, just saying like, just build something to scratch your own itch. There's always room in the market for something.
And you learn new tools, and so like, okay, so which leads us to Inertia and Livewire. Okay, so what are your thoughts on? We've talked about Livewire a little bit. We love you, Caleb. Great job on Livewire. Have you looked into Inertia at all?
Yes, I actually gave a talk on it at our PHP meetup last month.
What are your thoughts?
I really liked it from the perspective of having like an SPA that isn't an SPA, but that it's like it's building things that I'm already building. And one of the things that Jonathan mentioned in his introductory blog post is that so often we're building blade views where their only purpose is to house a full page view component.
Yeah.
But then you're interspersing those. Like sometimes you just have a blade view and sometimes you got a full page view component and sometimes you're mixing view components and blade templating and all that kind of stuff. So Inertia really just goes, look, do everything in view and we will handle swapping everything out, doing all the posts, doing all the error handling, doing all this Ajax request stuff for you, and basically post, do all your redirects, do whatever you're doing, and we'll just handle it. And then it goes, okay, everything is always a view component, but it will handle dynamically loading them in for you. It'll handle swapping them out. It'll handle passing all of the data, and you're just building your controllers. And instead of building your views inside your blade template and then like mixing and matching that, everything's just a view component.
Yeah, so Blade is no more. Blade is bye-bye. You don't use Blade anymore ever in Inertia.
And that way, like, even if your view templates don't have any reactivity or any dynamic stuff, it doesn't really matter because it makes it much easier to add
single paradigm
because you're already in the Vue component. It's a single paradigm, as you say. So that way you don't have to go, oh, well, crap, I've got this blade thing, and now I want to add like a tiny little bit of reactivity. So now I have to copy and paste this all over, or add a component into the middle of all of this blade. So, it really, and when we talked about Livewire on the Laravel News podcast, I said the same thing. It's doing what you're already doing, but staying in Blade as opposed to keeping everything in Vue. So really they're two projects that are solving the same problem in a slightly different way. One is pushing you all the way into Vue and JavaScript all the time, and one is keeping you in Blade and PHP all the time. And I know that I've said if I never have to write JavaScript again, I won't be upset. But it's not really JavaScript that I have problems with. I think it's more the jumping between the two and like having to change your mindset, whether you're in JavaScript or in PHP, and then just the cognitive. It's not huge, but the cognitive overhead of having to jump between the two. I think it's really nice. Switching. Yeah, the context switching. Thank you. I think like I would be happy to write the JavaScript if I was just writing the JavaScript and having like all of my Vue layer is Vue, as in the Vue framework.
Yeah.
All of my Vue layer is Blade, and keeping the two separate. So I'm okay with that. So I'm not bashing on JavaScript. All right. It's not that I hate JavaScript. It's just that like the context switching drives me nuts. So being able to
I'm trying to figure
out the other is nice.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out like where the overlap is for me, like which one I would go with. Because like in the next thing I build, I would love to use one of those two tools. Like I'd love to either use Livewire or Inertia. Yeah. For me and my brain, Inertia is winning right now a little bit. I think it's a little bit more opinionated. Mm-hmm. So again, basically, instead of just having little pieces of reactivity like Livewire where I have little components, so it's similar to Vue in the fact that like I have this little component that's on this page, whatever. And it's handling this piece of the page, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas Inertia is full out like, hey, here's the thing. And so for Inertia, really, for me, what it is it's just saying no Vue router, no Vuex, all of that stuff's where I'm very comfortable. The controller and all that, like the controller, the like Eloquent caching, all that stuff, all the stuff that I can PHP. I think it's some really nicely decorated data model, right, or presented data model that I want to have a thing specifically consume these little pieces. I can do all that on PHP. I'm very comfortable over there, and then just pass through the little pieces that I want to my front end, and then my Inertia front end pages can consume that. And bonus, they're reactive, right? And it handles it just like every Vue thing does. So if I need that little bit of reactivity, I have it, no problem.
Yeah.
And I don't mind Vue templating at all. Like it feels fine to me. So yeah, it reduces all that. It reduces a lot of the complex pieces of the Vue components and like handles it for me. The validation is amazing. The fact that it handles redirects, handles form stuff for me really well, like all that's great. And then also a lot of my testing gets to who's that? Oh my gosh, that looks so creepy because I know you're not doing that to me, but you're doing that to somebody.
Yeah, Yaz is harassing me on Telegram. He says that I'm a big shot. I can't even say hello to him. Yes, I can say hello to you, Yaz, but there are other people watching,
Yaz.
And this is going to be an audio podcast.
Oh my word. Yes, such a diva.
He's embarrassed. Yaz is... He's such a big part of the Laravel community, but at the same time, he's not. Like, and that's not to say hero. He's not... Yeah, he's an unsung hero. He's always around. He's so much fun. He's like... Sometimes I wonder if he wasn't Canadian, he'd be Australian, because he takes the piss out of everyone and everything, and he's so good at it. And it bums me out that I can't hang out with him more often.
This is Inception. Yeah, Yaz is a great guy. It was really fun. We got to hang out with him for a while at LaraCon this year. Okay, so Inertia kind of handles all that, the front, like exactly what it said. So Livewire, though, like I still haven't wrapped my head all the way around it. And the good thing about it is it does handle a lot of the same pain points, right? Validation, handling stuff on the PHP side of things instead of on the Vue side of things. But what it introduces now is it introduces a new paradigm that I haven't yet wrapped my head around, which is Livewire components, right? I know Vue right now. I know Laravel right now. So it feels like inertia is very natural. There is some changes that like I'd have to understand, but Livewire feels like a little bit of a different beast, and I'm excited to try them both out. Got a chance to talk with Caleb for a while about Livewire at Laracon as well. So I don't know. It's like I kind of need to make a project for each and kind of see which one I like better.
Yeah. I think I had a client of mine that gives me some repeat work, came to me yesterday, and they want to build like, it's just a 1-page app for a competition that just needs to take like name, number, email address, that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be a very simple thing just to dip my toe in it. And I think my first thought was to play around with inertia. Not to say that I prefer inertia over Livewire or one or the other. It's just that I've played a little bit with inertia already, and I think it might be a little bit easier for me. But that's not to say that I won't use Livewire for something else in the future.
Totally. Yep. I agree. I'm kind of the same boat, and I actually have a similar project right now. I'm meeting with somebody on Tuesday to talk about a very, very simple thing. Yeah, right. It's like a 2-pager, right? Like fill out this PDF application or fill out this online application.
Yeah.
And the lady is really upset because she's like, I just wanted to stop accepting applications after the 15th of the month. Is that so difficult? I can't get this person to do it for me. Can you do it? Sure, I can do that. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to try out Inertia. I'm excited. I think it'll be cool. I've been talking to Jonathan about it for a little bit, and he's so excited about it. It's awesome. Like to talk to him about it, like he'll just like rant about like, oh my gosh, this is like my favorite thing. It's pretty cool. All right, what else do we have on the list here? I was going to say something about microservices, which I don't know if I really want to.
But you don't have microservices in a microservices context. You just have a lot of Laravel apps doing different things and discrete Laravel applications.
That's exactly correct. Yeah,
but I think that is the difference between a microservice and what you've got is that you have discrete functionality, like that also have separate things, whereas microservices typically are split out to form part of a main application.
Yeah.
So, for example, when we were doing video transcoding, we had a microservice that was responsible for the transcoding, and we had a microservice that was responsible for like live streaming. But they were all managed through a central application. So in that context, and they weren't like micro, but they were small offsets that like you go over here and do your own thing, and you've got your own resources and your own compute and your own whatever. But we will manage all of that stuff from one place. Whereas I think the stuff that you're building, they're discrete applications. They've got their own user databases and things like that, and they don't necessarily talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, they don't talk to each other. Yeah. It's like, oh man, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to think if there's actually a different way to do what I'm wanting to do right now. So the way that I'm going to be doing it actually makes more sense for the future moving forward, because the way that I just thought about doing it would sort of be fragile if I ever wanted to move any of these apps off onto a different server. Okay. So basically what I have is I have a bunch of different applications that all work for like different departments inside our company, right? So one is like, hey, it's this basically all of these email generated, like all these email templates that are auto generated and filled in with data from this legacy database, right? So we call it rapid response, right? So it's like, hey, somebody has this issue or we need this, whatever. Like there's like, I don't know, probably 100, maybe more, probably 250 or something like that of these different things. And they're always adding to it too, right? They're constantly like, oh, we need this new thing. And it also will generate PDFs for them and drop them into a folder for them, whatever, right? So that's one application. Then we have another one that says, hey, like to kind of standardize communication across departments within our company, like stop sending an email telling somebody that, the paper towels need to be refilled in this one thing. Like we have a building service request form, or, hey, you hit a web page that's blocked from our IT department, but it needs to be not blocked because we need that, right? So that's a blocked page request, right? All of these things come through this paperless forms request, and then they kind of sit in a queue for somebody to work through, right? So different teams are assigned different things, whatever, right? So that's a different app. So there's all sorts of these different things, right? And some of the issue that we're having is there's no great way to centrally let people know that they have work to do in an application, right? So I would prefer not to, and Taylor echoed this at Laracon when we were sitting in the back room and he was talking about this. He's like, I hate emailing people. It's always so much noise, right? Like email's like my last resort. Like I don't want to email you to let you know that you have work to do. I'd rather just let you know some other way, right? So how do I do that? So what we're doing is we're redoing our intranet page. I showed you that the other day. And I want them to have, all the different applications that they have access to right on their front page, and then have the little friendly icon that says, hey, you actually have some work to do over here. So the way that I have to do that, though, is I have to ask each application, do you have work to do for this one particular user? So Wilbur Power wrote a package called user task list, and it just basically integrates with that application, and then it exposes a common endpoint for each one of those that we can just say forms.wilburgroup.com/user/GUID, right? Sorry, GUID. So sorry. GUID, UUID, whatever. And then it will just return a number or a count for that application, right? So that's kind of like what I'm dealing with. It's like this whole idea of like I have to communicate with all these apps. So I basically have a bunch of first-party APIs that I need to communicate with in like almost every single app, and it's starting to get a bit annoying. The other solution is like they're all on a shared database, so I could totally just like look into the other databases, like if I wanted to. Like if I wanted to be like messy, I could say, hey, from our intranet page, like don't bother going to ask the forms like how many notifications they have for somebody. Like just handle the logic yourself. Like just build in something into the intranet that says, hey, they actually have this many jobs. But then I have to basically recreate the logic in intranet to say what constitutes a job for this person over in forms. It's so, I'd rather not do that. I'd rather the logic live where it lives and then ask the application how much work there's for a person to do.
Yeah, duplication would be my biggest issue there in terms of, maintaining that logic in different places, and then of course you update it in one and forget the other, and then you have to remember what's where and all that kind of stuff, and then you start like pulling out packages, to have the shared functionality shared via composer packages, and then you've got to remember when you update that package, you have to go and find everything that's using it. It just becomes a nightmare. So
that's the other thing is like we are using packages to kind of have shared functionality across all these apps in some senses, and this whole like version it and then go update it across everything and PR everything and then approve it and then merge it. Oh, it just gets so tiresome.
Yeah. Yep. And we do that, like, as you know, we've got our models and things like that sit in their own package, and it's getting to the point now where there's changes because they're being used in so many different places, changes in the models could break things in funny ways. So we don't have any tests in that model package itself. All of our tests are within each of the applications. So
that makes sense.
Deploying an updated model package doesn't, or tagging a new version of that model package doesn't necessarily mean that we need to go and update the downstream consumers of that package. So something might be running version 1.5 and it's fine, like we don't need any of the new functionality. But if we need some piece of new functionality that's now in version 1.8, well, have we broken anything in 1.6 or 7? In between there that gets us. So we're getting to the point now where we're sort of thinking about maybe we do need to actually build some tests into that to test the models themselves, and then we've got to we'll probably use Orchestra Test Bench because it's the easiest way of bringing Laravel into that. But it's the trade-off that you have to make. Okay, so we've got all this shared functionality now, and that's great because we don't have to duplicate anything, but then you still have to maintain and manage modifications to that shared functionality that different applications may be using in different ways. So it's a delicate balance. It's a trade-off. As with everything, it all depends on context and what works. And for us, it's working at the moment, but and it's been working for like a couple of years now. So I think it's okay. But as the team grows and we have more people using that package and more applications being built and things like that, that may become a point of reconsideration in the future. So I don't know. Programming's hard. I don't do much of it these days. I actually got a good 3 hours where I could just program yesterday.
That's nice.
Which was nice. And then I was building, it was a report. So we had to, each week we need to report to HR all of our staff services, because there's like fringe benefits, tax things that they can claim as a business offering those services to staff. So as an internet provider, staff can get some some offer. So we do like 3 months or free services and things like that. So they need a report in order to claim on that for tax purposes. And I built it all just as a job. And all the job does is when it fires once a week, it goes and finds all the staff services, generates a CSV, and then emails that to HR. And then I was talking...
Love that.
Yeah, and I was talking with you... Well, I was talking with the Cash Money yesterday. I was like, how do I test this? Because I can test that the job runs and that the job fires a notification, but that's not really a very useful test. Like, who gives a... Like, my assumption is that the framework test will ensure that that runs. And because it's a job, we're just putting it in the console kernel, like schedule job, and then like...
Yeah, I love that, by the way.
Because
you don't have to create like a task.
Yeah, you don't have to create a command that
or
fires
command.
a
Sorry,
job
thank you.
Whatever.
Yeah,
because doing it as a job means that if we wanted to put a button in the CRM later to like give me a report right now, then we can dispatch that job and send it, and it'll just work.
Exactly.
But my issue was around like, well, how do we test this in a sane way? Because everything's contained within that job, and then I don't know. Like, I felt kind of funny that I was just exposing like the array of services as public properties just for the purposes of testing. Like, that would otherwise be a protected property on the model or whatever. And David Hemphill suggested like just add a getter. I'm like, well, if it's a getter or it's a public property, it doesn't like it's
the same thing.
The
Yeah,
same thing.
it doesn't
like,
really matter.
I'm exposing a piece of like contained data just for the purposes of testing. If it wasn't for testing, that would otherwise just be a protected property.
I suppose the reason why you would set a getter is so you could keep those methods as protected, so that somebody couldn't, like a future programmer couldn't be like, oh, it's a public property, I can just set it to whatever I want. And instead you'd have like a specific way to get at those variables in order to, for the purpose of testing. But I get what you're saying.
It's weird because from the point of the public API, like I would never like run that job, because it's basically new up the job, call a handle method, which will happen by the console kernel. And I would never like new up that job, because I can't like new up the job, call handle, and then like just to see what the services were, because calling handle will trigger the whole job to find the services, to generate the CSV, and to send the notification. So it's not like I can say new staff services report and then get the services out of it. But having said that, if I wanted to build it into, I wouldn't even do it as a job then. It would just become like a class that I could say, hey, give me all of the staff services and display it as a table on this page in the CRM, as opposed to exporting the CSV, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I felt weird about it. Like, at the end of the day, it was testing the functionality, and it made sure that what was supposed to be in the report was in the report, and then the report would actually get sent and all of that kind of stuff. But I don't know, it felt funny to me.
Yeah, because it's like you're basically ensuring that it by setting the public properties, you're essentially ensuring that it works when it's set up as it is in the test, but you're not protecting it against future changes that would break functionality that is not in the test, right? So like by saying this property is public, you're saying, yep, as long as I set it up this way as it is in the test, it will always work. Yeah. But if somebody in the future comes in behind you and says, well, I'm going to execute it this different way, and I'm going to change the public property in a way that you didn't expect, then, and if they're not writing a test for it, then that's the problem, right? So like, I don't know that you'd necessarily bear the weight of that, because if they're changing it in some way and they don't write a test for it and they just run the tests, then it's like, yep, everything passes. I mean, they should probably be writing a test for that new functionality that they're building, or the way that they're writing it.
Weird.
All right. That's a good spot. That's a good spot to wrap.
I think so.
Okay. Episode 60. This is a good one. I got some good insights.
Yeah. Don't forget to thank our beautiful sponsors. We actually got a regular-ish episode out 2 weeks in a row.
We did. I know.
And that includes one from New York.
Give me 1 second here. Oh my gosh, this window's right in my face here.
Every time. Joe from WorkVivo this week.
Yep, I need to just look up WorkVivo. The thing is, I think I could probably remember most of them off the top of my head, but I'm always so afraid I'm going to miss somebody. We have Andreas Hubenthal, JP Davey, Joe Lennon, Rasmus Nielsen, which Rasmus, thanks so much for saying hi at Laracon. That was awesome. And got to meet what was it? I think it was your boss. And we thanked him too, because he's the dude who pretty much pulled the trigger and being able to say, yes, you can sponsor our podcast. But I'm going to not remember his name, and he's going to pull a sponsorship. So sorry about that. But Rasmus, you're the freaking man. Nice meeting you in person. And then CTO Sumo. So who are we? Who is it that we're
Work Vivo
doing? Work Vivo. Yep, Joe Lennon. Work Vivo. Should probably look that one up, huh? Make sure that we get a Work Vivo. Where are you? Engage your workforce through internal communication. Work Vivo helps companies maximize the emotional connection that people have to the organization and its goals. I've always thought this looks really cool. Internal communication with a purpose. Yeah. So this is similar to probably like what that Facebook work is or something, but not Facebook, which I'm all about, right? Because gag, Facebook, no thank you. Needing to know more about my life and my work, no thanks. Yeah. I'd rather not. So if you're looking for a good way for your teams to be able to engage with each other through healthy internal communication, check out Work Vivo. Thanks so much, Joe. All right, everybody. This was episode 60. Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to find show notes of this episode, you can find them at North Meets South Audio /60. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter at Jacob Bennett, at Michael Dorinda, at North South Audio. And if you like the show, tell your friends about it. Tell them there's these two dudes who like to talk about stuff, and you should listen to us and or rate it up in your podcatcher of choice.
Yep. Hey, and
all
if
right, everybody.
you didn't like the show, what you can do is take an envelope, scream your thoughts into said envelope, lick it, and put it in a drawer. All right? Just keep them to yourself. I've killed Jake with this commentary.
Oh, you've killed me. Dude, I'm not feeling great, honestly. Like, I've got this whole chest thing, cough thing.
Yeah,
it's
I had
pretty
a little
nasty.
tickle in my throat, and my friend's like, you going to the football today? I'm like, it's raining, it's cold. I don't really want to aggravate this thing, so...
Yeah. We're getting old, man. We're getting old.
So old. My knee... I'm cleared, by the way. Just quickly, my physio is like, look, I don't need to see you again. Just get back to your business, which is good. But he did the dry needling thing, so my quad was sore where he'd like unraveled the muscle from that, and now like my knee's a little bit sore because I was walking on it funny because of the muscle, and it's all a big thing. But yeah, it's good. I'm back. I don't have to do a rehab session at the gym anymore. It's just back to normal. Getting the weight back up and getting back on track.
Learning to trust your knee again.
Yeah, which is the hardest part. I went with a friend. We go on Tuesdays to the basketball stadium around the corner from work and get some shots up. And it's still like, even with no one in front of me,
feels weird.
Just feels weird. Like taking that side step is not good, but it'll get there. It's just it's now like mental.
It'll get there. We got you. We got your back.
Yeah. All right.
All right, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.